Hello, everybody. My name is Willow, and I'm helping people to wake up. Um, the reason that I haven't discussed the dark night of the soul is because it's just too painful for me to relive, and I've been putting it off. But I've come to realize that it's not just about me anymore. Because when you wake up, you realize that you're one with the universe, and you also have a responsibility when you wake up to share what you have learned and share what you know. So that's why I'm going to do this video on the dark night of the soul, and I'm going to tell you about mine and just tell you a little bit about what you can expect. When you first wake up, when you first have your spiritual awakening, it may seem like just sunshine and roses for a while. For some people, it's so intense they just jump right into the dark night, and they skip any of the calm and peace that comes with it. But for most people, for a while, or for me, a couple of years, it was pretty good. It was pretty peaceful for me, and I thought that I had everything done, but I didn't. Um, After you start your spiritual search and you start searching for more truth and more reality, because that's what it is when you wake up. You're waking up to what's really out there and not to dream. Um, the dream is pretty much the world that you live in, that you believe is your world. That's the dream. And when you wake up, you start seeing another world, which is reality and which is the truth. So when you start your search, begin your search for the truth and for more of reality, you'll eventually come to a place to where everything in your life has to come into alignment with your truth and your reality. In other words, when you wake up to the truth and to the reality, you're actually in this new energy. You're taking on this new energy of reality. And everything that's not in alignment with this new energy, or it's actually not new energy, it's always been here, you're just waking up to it. But everything that is not in alignment with your new reality has to come into align with it, or it either has to leave. So everything has to be cleansed. Everything within you. You say, well, yeah, it's all good, it's all good. But everything within you has to come into alignment with your awakening. And everything that is not in alignment with your awakening disappears from your life. Now, this is where the dark night of the soul begins, because this is very, very painful. It's very devastating when you start losing things in your life. In my case, it started out with losing loved ones. I lost my dad. I lost my job. I lost my home. I lost my relationship with my son, and most of my family members all within the same year. I mean, because when it hit, it was like a storm. I lost everything within 1 year. I lost everything. Okay, when everything started disappearing or crumbling away in my life, I got angry. I was so angry and so confused about what was happening. I didn't understand what was happening to me. Okay, I knew that I had gone through an awakening, but I didn't know anything about the downside of awakening. I didn't know that my life was going to start crumbling away. I didn't know that my world was going to come to an end. I didn't know that everything that I had worked for and that I had believed in and that I had been taught my whole life was all turning out to be a lie or nothing. Because when it all started disappearing, the only thing that was left was the reality that I had come into. In other words, the reality of the spirit life, versus the so-called reality of my life. So when you awaken, you can expect for your life to just crumble away, for everything to start falling apart. Now the anger that I felt, the resentment that I felt, the hatred that I had, I mean, I blamed everybody and everything around me for what was happening to me. I blamed my parents. I blamed my job. I blamed my son. I just blamed everybody. I was so mad. I didn't understand why I was losing everything. Okay, and like I said, at that time, I didn't realize that this was part of the spiritual awakening. I didn't realize that you had to lose everything. But in order for you to start new, in order for you to build a new life in the new energy, in the life of spirit, in the life of the new reality, in order for you to build that life, the old life that you had has to disappear. It has to be destroyed. That's why everything that's not in alignment with spirit has to go. Okay? If you don't know this, now this is important. If you don't know this, when you wake up, if you don't know what is coming, you can fall into not only deep depression and not only anger and fear and just complete devastation, but you can also lose your mind. You can lose your mind if you don't understand what's happening to you. That's why it's important to know that there's a dark night of the soul that you can look forward to. Now, for me personally, I had so much stuff from my past that I was holding inside. I came from a dysfunctional family, so I had a lot of resentment from when I was a child growing up. I had a lot of resentment from my parents. I had a lot of resentment from just things that happened to me throughout my life. I had a lot of guilt for things that I did in my life. I had a lot of just confusion about things that had happened to me in my life that I never did work out. And so as a way of coping with that, I just kind of pushed it all down inside, and it just stayed there. And this is what most people do. They just kind of suppress it so they won't have to deal with it. And that's okay. You can do that as long as you're in the regular old 3D world, just living your old life in the old energy. You can do that. You can still just kind of act like everything's fine and everything's just being held inside and suppressed because it's not bothering you as long as you can keep it down and keep it under control. But when you start to wake up, all that changes. Everything has to be cleansed. You can't wake up and just receive what you want to receive, all the good, and leave the bad out. All the bad and all the ugly that's inside of you has to come up to be cleansed and to be healed. And that's the most painful part, because when it starts coming up, it's like it's in your face, and you're like, oh my, what is this? You're like, why is this coming up? This is something that I dealt with when I was little, and I haven't thought about this for 40 years or 20 years. Why is this coming up all of a sudden? Well, it's coming up to be healed. It's got to be cleansed. Everything has to come up, and everything has to be healed. Whether you like it or not, it's got to come up. Now, it can be real easy for you if you realize this. If you realize that it's coming up to be healed, it can be real easy to do it if you know what to do. But if you don't know what's happening, if you don't know why it's coming up, especially if you don't know that you're having a spiritual awakening, you won't know. If you don't know why this stuff is coming up and you don't work to clear it out of your system, it's going to get stuck in your body somewhere, because that's the energy. As the light, it's light. It's what it is. As the light moves in from your awakening, as the light pours in, the light is going to work to push all this negativity out of you. And if you don't know how to release it from your system, then it gets stuck. It can get stuck in your heart, in your throat, in your third eye. It can get stuck any of your Any place of your body it can get stuck. And if it gets stuck, then you could be stuck for a long time. So that's another reason why it's important to know what to do when these negative stuff comes up. And when it comes up, all of the emotions that you had comes up with it. All the emotions from your past, uh, whatever happened at that time, all of it comes back up to be dealt with. And your first instinct is going to be to push it back down and say, no, 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 I don't want. But you're not going to be able to do that in a spiritual awakening. When it comes up, you're going to have to speak to it. You're going to have to say, okay, I see you. I know why you're here. I know what you're here. I know what you are, and I know why you're here. And now, let's do this. Let's cleanse it. Let's purify it, and let's transform it back into the light so that you can clear all of your energy centers in your body and you can continue with your awakening process. That's what it's about, is to clear everything out. Clear all the gook out so the light can come through. Now, that being said, for me, when it happened to me, when I started losing everything, and all the negative emotions and all the negative things from my past started coming up, and it was like in my face, I pretty much lost it. I went into a deep depression. I had just lost everything in my life. I didn't have anywhere to live at the time. My mother helped me get a little camper, and I put it in her backyard, and I didn't have a job. I didn't have anything, so I found me just a little part-time job working with my sister, and I'd go to work for a couple of hours a day, and then I'd come home, and the depression and the resentment and the anger was so intense that I literally isolated myself from the world. I did. I still went to work part-time and did what I had to do just to survive, just so I could just eat and pay my bills. That's all I was working for. I'd go to work, and when I come home, I would get in my little room, and I would lock myself in there, and I would put thick blankets up over my windows, and I would just crawl up in a little ball on my bed, and I would cry, and I would just travail, just weep, 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 and cry, and cry, and cry, and mourn over what I lost, and it seemed like it just kept coming forever. I had my computer. I had just joined a spiritual group, so I did have somebody who could help me. I'd pull up the talks that they made, and I would listen to those talks, those spiritual talks on my spiritual path, and that is the only thing, I promise you, the only thing that got me through, because there were so many nights when I prayed to die, when I prayed that God would just take me in my sleep. I didn't want to live anymore. I didn't have anything to live for. I'd lost everything. I lost everything I had. Everything that I had worked for the last 30 years was gone. My son didn't want to talk to me. He didn't understand what was happening to me. My family thought I was crazy. Everybody thought I was losing it, and I guess in a sense I was. I had lost it. Everything was gone, and now I was even losing myself. I'm telling you, I'm talking about a real Job experience here. It was a real Job experience for me. I am guessing about 5 years in that place, about 5 years, and then eventually, I started coming around, and that's when I started realizing, through the help of people online, through the help of my spiritual group, through the help of the videos like this, through the help of other gurus online, I finally came into the realization that, hey, this is part of it. This is part of your awakening. I didn't know this was part of my awakening. I thought I was just sick.